Hello, everyone, and welcome to GSA's Celeste Any League. We have a match here, not between Benji and Cheese, but between blackpear and flarebear. This is going to be a tight match as we get started with the 4th week of this league. So yeah, it looks like they've already got the file names typed up, so we're probably going to get started real soon here. blackpear very recently picked up his first win of the season against Scrublord, pulling out a 29:33 as his best time, which was a big PB for him, or at least, not sure if it was a PB at the time, but it was a big improvement on where he was at the start of the league for sure, as the runners are getting going with prologue here. Not too much to talk about at the moment. Flare has yet to pick up a win so far, but he has shown rapid improvement as well, and is potentially ready for a big breakout performance here in week 4. And if you haven't heard already, what they just did there at the end was a cutscene skip that didn't used to be in the game. A runner discovered a frame-perfect way to skip the cutscene at the end of prologue, saving about 15 seconds. And the devs just decided to make it easy enough for everyone anyway. Alright, both runners getting started in as we pause flarebear's screen to get them synced up with the in-game time. Both runners in Chapter 1. You've seen it before, and you'll see it again. It's the same as it always is. Very tight movement. Probably the most tightly optimized part of the game, I would say. Any small mistakes here will seem to matter a lot in the moment, but in the end, the seconds you lose in City can be easily made up in some of the later chapters. As it stands right now, blackpear is having a slightly cleaner City. What you want to look for a really good Chapter 1 time is somewhere in the 103, 102 range. blackpear getting a 104. Flare with, it looks like, a 107, high 107. Well done, decent start for both runners. No deaths on either side, of course. Across all the league's runners, they only average less than 0.5 deaths in Chapter 1, so not too uncommon to see a deathless run there. Chapter 2, of course, having some of the most pleasing movement in the game. Those dream blocks are just so nice to look at every time. I'm not sure what exactly was going on with Flare there, but taking an extra screen transition, that'll cost him, you know, a tiny bit of time. Now, it just happened on blackpear's screen. There's an instance, I'll point it out when Flare does it here in just a second as they go through this second major part of Chapter 2, the battle and chase sequence. Right here, as he dashes diagonally up, that's just an example I wanted to point out of something that looks fairly straightforward and easy. Oh, as Flare takes kind of an odd death there, not sure exactly what happened. That'll cost him a few seconds as blackpear extends his early lead. But anyway, that is certainly an example of something that looks very simple and easy, but can be very difficult to pull off if you haven't put in as much practice as these runners obviously have. Alright, blackpear moving into the awake section at 128 as Flare takes another weird little stuck there in this final part of the chase sequence. The awake section, no hazards or anything, it's just pure movement. A lot of potential for very quick movement as blackpear finishes with a 148. Generally in Chapter 2, anything below 150 is a good time. Looks like Flare didn't quite hit that, had some hangups, had a death, maybe two, I'm not sure, at least one. But blackpear now is getting into Chapter 3. This is really where the runs begin to be made or to be lost, as Flare finishes with a 157. So not really what he was looking for, not off to the start that you would really hope for from Flare. Meanwhile, blackpear off to a very good start, certainly on pace to match his performance in his recent match against Scrublord, if I can enunciate. Oh, Flare, that's not a good start to Chapter 3 either. Unfortunately taking a death in the first Dust Bunny room. And another death right there. Not sure exactly what's going on. He does collect the strawberry though. Very important, you know, for morale. Gotta have that strawberry. Alright, it looks like blackpear has not had any major hangups as flarebear takes another death there. Yeah, really not the start he was looking for. Really all eyes on blackpear here. He has a lead, but this is the place, and even within this chapter still, although we're about getting close to halfway through it at this point, where he can lose all this time that he's gained fairly quickly. Alright, done with the first side room in the huge mess area before flarebear even begins it. Now these sections here are kind of... oh, as blackpear does take a death there, although it wasn't a very costly one. These sections, or this section, excuse me, of Chapter 3 is probably the least strenuous, I would say, in terms of risk. Of the different sections of Resort. The rooms are generally short and condensed, and there are some tough cycle skips that you can do, but for the most part, the strategies for each room are pretty straightforward and consistent. Where it really picks up is after the elevator shaft section, as blackpear does take another death, so he's shown some cracks here. But when we get to the elevator section, or elevator shaft section, and the Oshiro section at the end, that's where small mistakes can lead to upwards of 10 seconds of time loss per, you know, small issue. And that would be the section that blackpear is entering now. This is really a part that he needs to keep clean if he wants to keep his early lead. And while blackpear's lead is pretty significant for this part in the game, it looks a little bit greater than it is because his in-game timer is farther along than flarebear's. First try demo dash though, that is a huge potential, although a death in the room right after. That was a pixel perfect trick that blackpear just did on the first try. Not too uncommon to see runners get it on the first try these days. Still a potential choke point that blackpear has cleared very easily. So props for that. As blackpear makes his way through the I guess you can call it a boss fight, or more of an escape sequence, really. This is a place where there's a lot of rooms that take a long time to get through, and the death towards the end can be an inordinate time loss compared to the mistake that we made. However, blackpear, of course, making his way very quickly as flarebear also gets demo dash first try. I've certainly noticed that in the first week of competition, it seemed like runners were struggling with demo dash a lot more, missing it, you know, even more than just a few times, and now it seems like it's unusual for runners to miss it more than once or twice. Certainly showing all the practice that has gone in on these runners' ends. There's a lot of work that goes into being this good at running a game that you don't really get to see just from watching the streams. These guys are working really hard to give their best performances here live. Ooh, and that's kind of one of the costly deaths, and another one in the same that I'm talking about. And another one, I'm not sure if he, to be honest, I'm not sure exactly what's going wrong. And another death in the same room. Flarebear is kind of, maybe the nerves are getting to him, but maybe he's just not feeling quite right. The buttons are you know, not in his hands, so to speak. Meanwhile, blackpear is a good way into chapter 4 already, as Flare struggles to get past the last few rooms of the Oshiro section. Finishing with a 5:15 on chapter 3 is Flarebear. I missed blackpear's time in the chapter, but it was certainly below 5 minutes. So blackpear has had a significantly better performance on all the chapters so far, and most significantly better in chapter 3. That does not bode well for Flarebear's potential to pull out this race, of course. But if blackpear makes mistakes like that, that he just made, there's certainly a lot of time left. And in my experience watching Flare, it seems that he does perform very well in the late game. I know he pulled out his first ever sub 6 minute reflection in a race. Oh, interesting strategy from Flarebear's screen. He went back to get the screen transition for an extra dash in that section. A bit of a safer strat than you would normally see, but interesting, really showing the creativity there. He feels that those are kind of the decisions you have to make as a runner, like what do I go for? What can I be sure that I can get? Should I go for a riskier strat that's a small time save, or will it really in the end net me a loss if I mess it up more often than not? Blackpear close to finishing off chapter 4. He's looked a bit shaky in this chapter, just like his chapter 3 wasn't perfect either, but certainly enough to maintain his lead. Really shows that he is maintaining his strong performance from the previous race. 2 deaths. The league average is 1.7 in chapter 4. However, Flare keeps on making costly mistakes. In fact, in a way, his mistakes have been rather unlucky in that really tending to lose him more time than blackpear's mistakes, even though it's really just a similar issue. Just one early input or late input, or misdirectional input are really all these mistakes are, and it's really just the specific point in the game that you make them can really vary in terms of how much time it loses you. Alright, blackpear attempting the yeet, got the corner boost, got the trick, very well done. That's one of the most difficult tricks to do in the game, and certainly one of the most fun to watch as well. I say most difficult because it has a fairly low success rate, but in terms of its precision, it's probably less difficult, I would say, than Club's Drop or Demo Dash, but due to its not being a huge time save, the runners practice it specifically a good deal less. Flare finishing chapter 4 with a 3:04 on the timer. Not Again, not the time you would really be looking for if you want to have a strong performance at this level of play. Blackpear already on to the 5B section of Temple. The section of the run with the coolest music, in my opinion. And see, that was an unfortunate time loss there. Just hit the dash button just a tiny bit late. Ended up losing like 3 seconds because he had to fall all the way back down. Meanwhile, Blackpear getting Bub's drop first try. That's an extremely difficult trick. Saves a ton of time. In fact, is required to make this route using the B-side viable. The runners have put a lot of dedicated practice into getting that one trick. In fact, flarebear has his own method. I'm not sure if anyone else has adopted it, but I know it's worked well for him. Of essentially timing the input with music, I believe, or with a metronome, so that he can consistently get that near frame perfect. I believe maybe it's a 2-frame window to get that consistently. Flare into the cassette room, doing a bunch of extra dashes. Every time you dash, the game freezes for just a tiny amount of time, which ends up reducing the in-game time as well. So in the very minimal periods of downtime that this game has, you'll often see runners doing these random dashes because it'll reduce their final time by just a tiny bit. So Blackpear on to the Theo section, which is the final major section of 5B, of course. It has some of the most technical and challenging plays in the run. You have to manage carrying Theo with you, as well as bouncing him over walls and against the seekers, all these coin rooms. Meanwhile, flarebear getting Bub's drop first try as well, and something you always want to see. Missing that trick is at least a 10-second time loss, and can really wreck your flow. Wow, Blackpear finishing with a 227. That is a very for 5B. Only one death, and that death was intentional. So essentially, that was a deathless run, an intentional deathless run of 5B. Flare, another death that cost quite a bit of time there. It just seems that he's not feeling himself right now this match. Blackpear into the feather section to start out Reflection. Missing his first try at Lake Skip though. Not a massive time loss, but still something you would want to avoid. Meanwhile, Flare is stuck in this room still. I cannot believe how much time he spent in that one room. This is going to be one of those races that once it's finished, he's really might just have to take a break, shake it off, get either the nerves or, you know, the spaghetti out of his fingers, whichever the problem was. Blackpear messing up the Kevin Block strat there just a bit, getting, seems like a little bit too much speed. Over on flarebear's trick, this is one of my favorite strategies in the game. Hitting the same seeker, the seeker is the name of those enemies, twice. You know, it's just really, he's having these odd deaths that I never really see runners make. And Blackpear is zooming along. He is, I don't know, he is not remained in the, how much of a lead he has. He might feel that he needs to be going quite a bit faster than he actually needs to finish off this race. It's unlikely at this point that a comeback will be made, but Blackpear does not know that, probably. He might have the stream open on his phone, of course. but he has elected to stay out of the Discord voice call, which is an interesting decision from him. Alright, Flare finishing off with 6 more deaths in 5B than did blackpear. It seems like every chapter blackpear's lead has just extended. He's really shown very consistent play, which is something that he hasn't always been known for. It's interesting to see how he has improved on that front. By that I mean in his first couple races, it seemed like there were often he would have these chapters where he would lose a lot of time, as flarebear struggles with leg skip as well. Get set. But in a race like this, blackpear, although of course Summit, possibly the most challenging chapter of them all, is yet to come, but so far he has had a solid to very good performance in every chapter, as he gets battle and boost as well, and starts into the battle and fight section of chapter 6. Flarebear with the very smooth feather movements, indicative of using a controller. For the most part, using a controller and a keyboard, neither has any advantage over the other overall in this game. I mean, the top 2 runners in the game, PB-wise, TGH and Flitterby, one of them uses a controller, the other uses a keyboard. So both are viable at the high level, but there are these slight differences with the feather power-up, where it's more advantageous to have that analog or that omnidirectional movement that comes with an analog stick. But one could say that it's much easier to consistently do diagonal dashes with arrow keys than with the D-pad, or especially with the analogs. Blackpear making quick work of Battle-In so far. Getting in seems like a hit per second, or canonically a hug per second. What Madeline is doing there to the darker side of her. If you're familiar with this game primarily from speedruns, I think it's worth noting that the story of this game, the part that we of course skip past at any cost, is very worthwhile. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh well, maybe it looks too hard for me to play, there's certainly more value than just what it brings to the table as far as speedrunning, which is a lot. But it's really just a well-rounded, awesome game altogether. As blackpear gets towards the end of chapter 6, I'll take this time to remind everyone of the live event that is happening in April. It's called Pace, of course. I'm sure you all know by now, and if you haven't heard, well, now you have. Pace is happening in Maryland in April. Exclamation point event, I believe, and exclamation point tickets for more information. It's going to be awesome. You can see the finals of this league right here. The highest level Celeste gameplay in the world. I can guarantee that that's true. Will be happening live at Pace, streamed at Twitch, and also in person in Maryland, which would be awesome to see. I will not be there, unfortunately, but so many cool people that are involved with GSA, or not specifically involved with GSA, but just our fans will be there as well. It's going to be great. Meanwhile, blackpear starting off Summit, looking to finish this first game in this 3-game set strong. This isn't exactly a best of 3, although whoever wins at least 2 of the games does get an extra point. but we will play 3 races no matter what. I didn't catch blackpear's final time for reflection, but he looked like he only had 2 deaths, which is below the league average for deaths in reflection, so pretty solid performance from him there. As I've mentioned, he's had a solid performance in every chapter so far, and Flare has had hang-ups and some issue of almost every chapter. He seems to be a runner, at least in my observations. I don't know if I can really back this up with statistics, but Flare seems to be a runner that's largely based off momentum. He had a pretty big PB in his race last week with a sub 31 for the first time, or perhaps that was 2 weeks ago, I forget. And in the Any Percent tournament last fall, he actually PB'd in 2 consecutive races in 1 round. So he's kind of a runner that can have really high highs, race settings, and really low lows as well. And it's really just up to riding the wave of how he's playing at the moment. Oh, blackpear with an odd death here in 1000. And another couple deaths in this room. Maybe I spoke too soon on him having a clean performance in every chapter, but that's certainly not enough to kill it. What can often happen, of course, is that if a runner makes one mistake that they're not used to making, it can throw them off for a little bit, and then it'll kind of snowball into more mistakes that they're unaccustomed to, just because their muscle memory is thrown off a bit. Muscle memory, of course, being such a big thing in any speedrun. It's rare that you have a speedrun that's entirely based on reaction, rather than training your fingers to do the exact inputs at the exact times. Meanwhile, it looked like about a 6:30 reflection from Flare. Not a terrible time, to be honest, but still not really what he would hope for. As it stands, he's about 1,500 meters away from blackpear, which is about half the mountain. I think it's safe to say that blackpear, barring severe unforeseen circumstances, will finish off this first race and take a 1-0 lead in this set. I tend to be pretty bad at estimating how what a runner's finishing time will be based on eyeballing what they are to run, but I think he's certainly still on potential sub 30 pace as blackpear. I'm not sure about PB, but it's been a very good run for him. Make no mistake, despite the fact that he didn't really need to take this first game, he has certainly had very impressive performance. He's been bringing it recently. And as I mentioned earlier, blackpear recently taking the win against Scrublord, who was probably Scrublord was the favorite going into that. Meanwhile, flarebear is into 1,000 meters as blackpear is in finishing up the 2,000 meter section. So as it stands now, he's only 1,000 meters down the mountain. And an odd death from flarebear in the same group. Blackpear really struggled with as well, although gets through it a bit quicker. Blackpear getting through the 2,500 meter section. Home, of course, of the infamous door skip. pointed out when it comes on screen. Door skip, I think, is really an interesting example of how a community's initial reaction to a new strategy or discovery is really not necessarily representative of how it will be seen and performed later on. Initially seen as one of the most ridiculous, tight, unnecessary things to go for to save time because it was seen as extremely difficult or not all that much time saved, is now performed at runners at very consistent rate. In this league, it's, I believe, let me look up the current stats real quick here. Yeah, we're at 89%. So only 11% of the time do runners miss door skip. Something that was seen for a long time as it's extremely difficult, and now has consistency levels like that. Sorry, my PC glitched out for a second. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I'm back. I'm seeing the race. Apologies if I missed anything especially cool in the last 30 seconds or so. So blackpear making his way through the 3000 section on really stellar pace. Meanwhile, Flare making his way through the 2000 meter section, of course. The rehash of, taking a death to the snowball, another very death Flare. He's just had terrible luck with where these deaths have happened. It's not exactly luck, of course, but it's just unlikely that he has died in the specific places that he has. And another death in a unfortunate location, and that time losing a strawberry as well. Truly the most unfortunate possible occurrence there. For those that don't know, these strawberries have no bearing whatsoever on the run itself. There's just a few that you have to collect usually just by going through the game in the fastest way possible. And I always get a little sad when you lose them due to a death. But in reality, it does not matter whatsoever for the speedrun. Yep, blackpear into the final room of Celeste on sub 30 pace for sure. Looks like PB is dead by a good amount. Still a very solid run. Certainly will lower his league average. Meanwhile, Flare making his way through 2,500 meters, taking, it seems like every time I look over to his screen, he's taking another death. He's getting it all out of his system, I hope, before the next races, as blackpear finishes with a 29:47. It's a very good time within 20 seconds of his PB. Definitely the exact kind of race that he's looking for, and the kind of race that he is going to want to have consistently going forwards. If he can maintain this level of performance throughout the rest of the league, he will certainly be a contender to be in that top 4 and go-to pace, which I've recently mentioned is the live event that's happening in Maryland that you should be incredibly excited about. As I, despite my deadpan approach, legitimately am. It's going to be great. The first ever competitive live speedrunning event. Going to be an adventure. blackpear showing us his finishing times. Had a 9:04 summit. He can do better than that. The summit, there were some parts where he struggled. 9:04 is not a terrible time, but it is below the league average of 8:58 for summit. So if he had had, by his standards, a very good summit, he could potentially have done another PB live, getting some extra practice in, as flarebear is finishing strong the 3,000 meter section, currently in the downdraft. It's hard to tell just from looking at it, but in this whole section of summit right here, the wind is pushing down on you. It can be really, really annoying, both casually and speedrunning, as it obviously has the effect of extra gravity essentially. But now we are in the updraft section, which is very nice comparatively. You get a lot more height with your jumps and dashes than you normally do, which allows for some cool movement. Oh, just dashing right past that spring, trying to go a little bit too fast. Only a count it moment from flarebear. Oh, a couple deaths on one of the longest flags. Oh man, I'm not sure what's going on. Missing a key as well, just consistently, and another again. He just seems to be, oh, and that's one of the worst deaths you can possibly have, really, in the whole game, is dying after getting all these keys on key 13. Not kind of, yeah, that really is what's been happening to Flare this whole race, is that he's just making mistakes, small mistakes, but at the worst possible times. And it's really, it's gonna show like how he can respond to that essentially. He's having a race that's really just about everything. So how can he respond? And can he produce some good performances going forward? He's certainly a very talented and capable runner, and we've seen him pull out great performances so far in this league. And it'll be interesting to see how he can respond. Can he pull out that best side of him when he's just kind of had that worse? I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. I'm not doing the best at explaining my thought, but you get it. And Flare finishing up with a 34 flat and a 10:38 summit. Really not what he wanted. Frustrating race all around from Flare. But he has an opportunity to respond. That first race in this 3-race set. He could still, in fact, take 3 points out of this if he pulls out his best side in the next 2 races. Essentially, the way it works is that each runner, there's 3 head-to-head races. The winner of each race gets a point, and then whoever won at least 2 out of the 3 races gets an additional point. So the 2 possible options are, if one runner wins 3, all 3 of the races, they get 4 points, and the other gets 0. And if it's 2-1 in the end. The winning runner gets 3 points, and the losing runner gets 1 point. Alright, Flare's typing out his file name for the second race. Looks like he's ready to get started, get that last race out of his system. A fresh start, if you will. Alright, and blackpear is back as well. I think it's very likely that this next race will be a little bit tighter than the last one. If anyone's wondering why the runners type in these seemingly random codes for their file names, that's because they are random codes. And it is one of our cheat prevention methods at GSA, because the file name you type in pops up at various points throughout the run. Having a custom file name that we create and tell them right before starting the race is a way of guaranteeing that it's much more difficult to potentially fake a race time. Alright, and they're both getting started on the second race. Blackpear trying to sneak ahead, but we're going to sync him up. Celeste does go primarily by in-game time, one of the few major speeds that does rely on in-game time as the primary determiner for both leaderboards and races, as you can see. This game was built with speedrunning in mind, so to have having that clock is kind of one of the ways that the developers really, I wouldn't say catered to the speedrunning community, but certainly had their thoughts in mind. That said, though, the in-game timer isn't perfectly representative of even the time that happens within the chapter. Oh, and blackpear taking an early death. So Flare certainly does have the lead, despite even though their in-game timers are a bit out of sync. He's having the cleaner city so far. I don't know the details, as I was saying, but the in-game timer has some small inaccuracies, although it's just so convenient to use for the official timing method, and it's consistent for all the runners that it's certainly a reasonable way to time it, and the community is very much in agreement on that. Oh yeah, and we're getting synced up already here. Shoutouts to the restreamer, doing a fantastic job. Oh, Flare taking a death there on the spike jump. And another one getting set up, and then another one. Man, he unfortunately had another one. He's thrown away in the spike jump room. What was looking like a very good city, finishing now with a 118, which is very poor for a runner of his caliber. Unfortunately, I don't want to be too harsh, but that's really not something you'd expect to see. A 4-death city is not normal at all. That's about 4 times as many deaths as the average is. Although that doesn't really, because you can get multiples of 1, but kind of an odd series of mistakes. They're very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, we're getting into chapter 2 here, dashing through these dream blocks. Oh, dying twice is blackpear on that diagonal dash there that I told you. It looks easy. It's not at all. And a lot of things here that happen in the blink of an eye, as Flarebear gets it first try, a lot of things that happen in the blink of an eye are 100 times harder than you would think just by looking at what they do. These runners have gotten so good with consistent practice, often combined with really just a good natural game as well. The stuff that people began to figure out so quickly after the game was released, really amazing to me. Both runners, though, having pretty solid Chapter 2s this far. blackpear not off to as stellar of a start as he was in the first race, but still having a pretty good lead here. Going to have a good lead going into, for sure. Wow, some nice corner boost there from blackpear. That was a very impressive awake side to get a 152. A bit slower than his time in the last race, but still going to be faster, I believe, yeah, for sure, than Flare's time here. And if you watch the awake sections carefully here, you'll notice that blackpear is quite a bit faster, largely due to something called a corner boost. I'm not exactly sure how it works technically, but interacting with the corner in a certain way gets you a little extra speed boost. As you can see, again, blackpear does it right there at the start of, right after entering the resort. It's one of those small things that are hard to pull off, and that you wouldn't really notice if you've never attempted to run the game yourself. Oh, Flare with some beautiful movement though in that first. Really showing that he has the skills to make a comeback here. And although blackpear hasn't really given an opportunity so far to get right back into it, although in this place again, I would like to reiterate, as I'm pretty good at doing, that this is really where the biggest opportunity for time loss and time save is, at least certainly in the first half of the, if not in the run together. There's so many places where small mistakes can cost a ton of time and high levels of precision are needed. blackpear finishing the crate section right as Flarebear. Oh, an odd death there from blackpear, dashing right into Dust Bunny as he goes through the book section. I believe it is called. I think most people seem to agree on. But I've heard both laundry and towel section for the third section of this part of resort. Personally, I prefer laundry, although I'd say it really just does look like towels. Not sure why they need so many towels. blackpear with a nice cycle skip there. Bouncing off the water. It's always nice to see. Flare with another kind of odd death. Weird. Seems like again he's just going a little bit faster than is possible. Perhaps feeling the pressure of being behind and trying to make it up without kind of at the cost of his consistency, maybe. Meanwhile, blackpear into the elevator shafts, where the mistakes are the costliest. You're going for demo dash. First try again. He's not letting the potential nerves of being in a commanding position get to him at all, at least so far. As he enters the Oshiro section, right as flarebear enters the demo dash room. Flare also getting demo dash first try in the first race. Fortunately, cursed him a bit there. Getting it second try though, still a good effort from him. It'll be interesting to see, something to watch going forward. Switch more to a checkpointless version of the demo dash. As you can see there, usually runners will do a quick screen transition so that a demo dash failure costs only a couple seconds, compared to if they chose to go without the checkpoint, it would cost about 10 seconds to have to go back and everything. Now, blackpear finishing with a 4:26. That is a very solid time. I wouldn't be surprised if that's his best resort so far. Yep, that is his best resort time. Point was 31. He just beat that by 5 whole seconds. So very well done from blackpear, extending his lead again. Flare having not a terrible resort, but still pretty shaky. He'll still finish here under 5 minutes comfortably, which is better than his first performance. Keeping himself within arm's reach. Blackpear will have to keep this up if he wants to keep winning. He's certainly shown that he's capable of doing so. We're into Chapter 4. Chapter 4 goes by quite a bit faster than you would expect, having played, if you've only played the game casually. There's so many rooms in this game where the wind slow you down so much that it feels like ages before you get through it. And all these sections with these blocks that amount to auto-scrollers. But through clever planning and full understanding of this game's mechanics, speedrunners have been able to really make the wind so much less important than you would expect it to be. And a lot of these auto-scroller sections with these blocks are skipped entirely. And another thing to watch for the future of consistency, as flarebear gets a very cool vast strat there. Here, I kind of missed my chance to point it out on blackpear's screen, so I'll point it out when flarebear gets there, but there's an additional auto-scroller script that can be done that requires an insane amount of precision and risk that runners really aren't going for it in runs, at least not that I've seen, but in IL runs, such as I believe the record holder for IL is Scrublord, one of the competitors in the league as well. And the IL record has a death in it, but it goes for this extreme auto-scroller skip right there. Instead of activating the key at the top there and skipping that block altogether, there's a way, I believe, don't crucify me too bad if I mess up the details, but I think a demo dash and a pipe jump are necessary, extremely precise. As blackpear finishes up with a 2:49, anything sub 2:50 is a great time. I say that really anything sub 4 minutes is extremely hard to get, but these runners are at a level where they expect a little bit more from themselves than that. So really anything sub 2:50 is going to be something that most runners are happy with. Anyway, that auto-scroller skip that I was forever ago, is something to watch for in terms of small optimizations that save a little bit of time but multiply the difficulty of a section. That eventually runners will have to start going for to keep them moving. Meanwhile, Flare with a 253 Ridge. Also, thank you to Samurai Man. Nice to see a legendary speedrunner as blackpear gets yeet in celebration of. Thanks for showing the support. Samurai Man, of course, a historically great Super Mario Sunshine and Twilight Princess runner, and I think some other games too. So, thank you. Meanwhile, blackpear finishing off the A-side section, missing the optimal cycle there, unfortunately, but still going to end with, it looks like, 116, 117, 117. Pretty good start to Temple from him. Blackpear keeping it going strong. Flarebear has cleaned up a lot of his movement and mistakes from the previous race, but blackpear isn't really giving him the opportunity to really get into the thick of it. Flarebear missing yeet and not handling it very well. The backup there ended in his death, so that's obviously not what he was wanting. Meanwhile, blackpear coming up on Bub's drop, the most punishing trick in the game, I would say. Getting it first try. That's what you want to see. Flare exiting 5A with a 1A5. A good 8 seconds slower, relatively short section of the run than blackpear. Really goes to show you how these small sections, and every little section, blackpear's just doing it, you know, a small percentage cleaner, and that keeps adding up over time. Oh, blackpear with death right at the start of the seeker section. Flarebear also getting Bub's shot first try. It's really something you always root. Even if you have, you know, a favorite in a race that you're rooting for, you always want both runners to hit Bub's shot first try. It can be painful. Oh, wow! Just dashing right into that spike there. Not a mistake you see often, or not dashing. Probably just fell right into it, trying to get the angle a little bit too tight. Anyway, blackpear onto the Theo section before Flarebear even gets to into the mirror section of 5B. I believe technically, and I should be technical, that this section that blackpear's in is the Mixmaster Theo section. I think Theo would prefer that I refer to him by his full legal title, which is, of course, Mixmaster Theo. Blackpear is not having a good time with it, unfortunately, taking 3 or 4 deaths that I've seen in the last minute there. This is one of the most punishing rooms in the game to die on as well. The Seeker Gauntlet, go through these 4 different sections with some tricky movement and throwing a Theo. There's a lot of different things to think about in the room, and one mistake can lose you 10 seconds. So Flare making up, I think, a little bit of time in 5B. We'll see what their finishing time. Blackpear ends with a 251. I believe he had something like a 227 in his first race, so that's a significantly worse performance in 5B from Blackpear. Kind of his first, that I've noticed, really chapter that just didn't seem very strong at all by his standards. Flare, though, he had some troubles there as he gets through the Mixmaster Theo section, while blackpear is already onto Lake Skip. Neither runner has been able to get it first try. Blackpear missing it 3 times already. Getting it on the 4th try. Oh, Flare, tricky, almost dying several times on this there. Getting through the impossible room. So I was a little bit wrong. Flare did not actually make up any time in 5B, although he did keep it fairly close in terms of within the chapter. Still not going to be happy with that though, as blackpear has over a minute of lead now. Alright, flarebear given a go at getting it first try. That'll save a bit of time over blackpear for sure. But that alone will not get him too much closer. Ooh, blackpear with a death there. Reflection has some of the most interesting movement to watch due to these different mechanics that it introduces, especially with the feathers and the bumpers. That's what I call them. I'm not sure if they're officially called bumpers, but they remind me of pinballs, so that's what I'll be calling them. And then of course the cabin block, and that those are only called and nothing else. No other name shall be tolerated for the cabin blocks, named after the sound designer for the game. Not only designed the sound, but in fact provided some of them with his own voice. Blackpear coming up on Battle and Boost. A very visually appealing trick. Using all the momentum from the cabin, keeping it through a cutscene skip to get the first hit, hug, onto Battle in here, this fight sequence. Meanwhile, Flare making his way through the bumper and feather section. That is not at all what it's called, but the bumper and feather section is what it is in my mind. Right, and here we go, blackpear has been flying. As flarebear is only now getting down to closing in on the beginning of the fight, as blackpear is already a large part of the way through it. The battle and fight is certainly one of the most interesting parts of the speedrun to watch, just because of all the tight movement abilities that that come into play, and not only that, but the obvious ever-present danger of the lasers that she's firing, orbs, both of which have actually quite forgiving hitboxes. The laser is very thin, and the orbs don't generate a hitbox until they're well out from Battle and Sprite herself. That said, it's still very possible to get hit by them, and they certainly do a good job of making this section look so impressive to watch. The way they just fly through each screen like it's nothing is, I would say, the word I was looking for was insane, because normally when you're playing this game casually, it feels overwhelming how long this fight is, but they make such quick work of it. While blackpear on the last screen of the fight itself. Oh, that's an unfortunate death. That's not consistent with what we've been seeing from him, avoiding these long deaths. But now he is finished with the fight. Looks like his reflection finishing time is going to be well over. Looking to be probably around a 6:15 finishing for blackpear. 6:16, close enough. Sub 6 minutes is generally a good thing to look. There are obviously runners like PGH and Derby, and Nero, and the runners that can get those insanely low, like sub 540 times, are a bit different, but as far as the general populace of the league, sub 6 represents a very good reflection, and that's often what they're aiming for. blackpear starts his summit, final chapter of the game, of course. The final chapter of the game, a literal and yet not really the climax of the story. What you're seeing right now on flarebear's screen in that cutscene that he just skipped is kind of the moment in which the story kind of all comes together, and really the final act of the closing action. Madeline has figured out her problems, what's been preventing her succeeding so far, and now all that's left is the race to the finish that blackpear is on right now. So Flare entering only, like, yeah, not even a minute and a half. It's unlikely that he'll be able to catch, but it's certainly a better performance than what he's had before, where it was about a 3 or 4 minute difference going into Summit. As blackpear really struggles again, 1,000 meters. Just not dashing in the right direction. Or no, excuse me, that was the direction he was going for, but just getting a few pixels off every time. It's kind of odd how common mistakes that you see a runner make once and you think, wow, that's kind of an odd mistake to make, and then in the next race they'll do the exact same thing. I'm kind of curious scientifically about what causes these small, like, lapses in muscle memory. Often you can forget to do a section that's not really all that difficult. And I don't say forget as in literally like forget how suddenly you just keep on messing up on it when you never have before. It happens every time in lots of things other than speedrunning, and I'm not sure exactly what causes it. Just something or other about how our brains are, something that frustrates lots of speedrunners. You can just, it's just never quite perfect. No matter how close you get, you can't get that perfect run. Often what keeps people coming back. Meanwhile, blackpear making his way through. He hasn't really had too much trouble with this section. He's had a lot more trouble with 1,000 meter, which is supposed to be the comparatively easier section. Oh, Flare with another very, very dead. And again, it seems like when he has these calls, they are followed up with a couple just inexplicable mistakes, and then he gets right back into it. It's like every mistake for him ends up costing him a little bit of extra time just due to being thrown off his groove. Not a great start to 1500 meters either, although blackpear is not free of these costly mistakes. Dying at the end of this long auto-scroller room. Should probably get some water in between. Just getting dry. Okay, Flare avoiding a death in one of the longest routes. Let's see if he can get through this one. Yep. blackpear almost fallen into the spike there, as he is finishing up 2,000 meters. Missing the cool demo dash strat there, but not a big deal at all. As he enters the second to last, the second to last section of Summit, as Flare enters the third to last. He is 500 meters behind. Almost exactly. Let's see now, and this is very important, in my opinion. Alright, Flare collecting the strawberry, that's what I was looking for. In the last race, he missed collecting the strawberry there, unfortunate. And if I'm confusing anyone, I apologize. Strawberries, they don't matter. Only in your heart do they matter. blackpear, I missed his attempt at the but I got it for as he enters the 3,000 meter section. Now he's really, it seemed like his performance here really was, but now that I see his time now, it's really not that bad at all. He's, I think, not quite on sub 30 pace, but still a very good performance from him again. Meanwhile, Flare is coming up on door skip here. Well, no, not quite, but in the right section. I shouldn't conflate door skip with anything more than it is. Just a cool little trick. It is not really, in reality, a very important how well someone does it at all. It's just a fun little thing to track and look forward to. It's really not so much of a door skip, as we're still kind of going through the doors, just more of a switch skip, if you will, as Flarebear, of course, gets it first try. Probably getting that league average up to 90% door skip. I wonder if you pulled a runner from this game from 6-7 months ago and said, yeah, in February, you guys are going to be at 90% success rate in no resets and door skip. I wonder what they'd think. Alright, just 9 more flags to go. blackpear will be missing the sub 30 this time. Still get a very solid and will take a 2-0 lead. So he has already guaranteed himself, assuming he can finish this off without any horrible mistakes, he's guaranteed himself 3 whole points, and we'll be doing another race to give Flare an opportunity to get an extra point. And blackpear, again, will also have an opportunity to get that extra point for himself as well. Now, despite losing this second race, Flare has certainly put out a pretty good performance here. Again, he's probably still a bit frustrated because there is some time with cleaner play, but definitely showing improvement from the first race. And if he can carry that momentum into the third race, he's got a great shot at taking a point here. Meanwhile, of course, blackpear just finished up with, I think it was a 30-36 that I saw. So not quite as good as his stellar race one, but still something that I'm sure he's happy with. Another 9+ minutes. I'm sure that's a point of practice that you might be looking at that and saying, oh, I might need to practice Summit a little bit more. He's below the league average for Summit times twice in a row. As Flarebear is getting ready to enter the final screen of Celeste. Looking to be, I think, he'll get a 31-minute time, I think. I really should memorize the exact average time from, the final screen towards the flag, but I'm pretty sure he's well on pace. Speaking, of course, of pace, again, pace is the live that GSA is going to be holding in April of this year in Maryland, in the United States of America. If it was unclear, it'll be happening in April, as I said. You can buy tickets right now. You can also submit showcase runs if you are there and would like to race, as Flare also finished up with a 31:58. GG, a much cleaner run. It shaved two whole minutes off his time from. If he shaves 2 more minutes, he will have a massive PB of 30. So unlikely, but certainly he's trending up, and it would be great to see him get his first point in this next race. All right, I'm going to get a drink of water, so I'll be gone for about a minute as the runners also get ready to go for our race. All right, I am back. Looks like the runners aren't quite ready. We're gonna give them as much time as they need. It is exhausting having to do 3 straight no resets of a game like this. There's really, within Celeste, there's no natural downtime. There's really hardly any take a breath. So doing 3 races of this game back to back is pretty physically and mentally demanding. Big shout outs to the runners to being able to consistently pull this off. All right, but once this race is finished, don't go anywhere. If you enjoy high level speedrunning, we have got plenty more up our sleeve for today. We have a 70-star Division 1 race between Paracuzia and Liam Kings, as well as a Battle for Bikini Bottom race between, oh man, I don't know how to pronounce that first name. I'm going to spell it out, Seilcw versus Chris the Fast 222. That one's a little bit easier. At the Battle for Bikini Bottom no SBA tournament. And we're off. So yeah, one more Celeste race, and it is sure to deliver. Really looking to see if blackpear can continue his consistency that he's shown, and if Flare can keep his momentum from the improvement he showed in the last race. That's certainly what I'm rooting for. Nailing the once frame perfect trick. Now it is not in any way frame perfect. In fact, you could say you have infinite frames to hit the prologue skip now after it was patched. In a sort of way. Well, of course, not infinite, but you can just skip it like any other cutscene now. Making their way through the shortest and first chapter in the game are both runners. City is definitely, it's really, despite being one of, it's the first thing you learn, the first part of the game you play, it's one of the most technically challenging parts of the run. There's not a lot of places where you can lose a lot of time, so in a way for a race, it's not as important to look at. But in terms of playing the best, the most optimally that you can, it's certainly one of the most difficult parts. Oh no, and see that is one of the biggest possible time losses in City, messing up the neutral jump room at the end there. A 105 from blackpear and a 109 from flarebear. Neither of those are outstanding times for City, although not terrible either. As I think I mentioned, if you see 103, 104, those are some City times with the best of the best can hit 102 or even if they are at the top of their game. I believe the league average for City is a 106.6. So blackpear was actually below that, although Flare was just above it. Flare with a bit of a shaky start to Chapter 2, unfortunately. Alright, I'm gonna preempt myself here. The average chapter time for chapter 2 is a 151, and the best that's been done in the league so far is a 144.2 by PG8. Oh, Flare, again, that's kind of a common pattern. One death leads to another, which doesn't necessarily make sense. Or it really only makes sense from a mental standpoint. If you die once, it shouldn't really cause you to die again. Although the cycles can be different, what's happening on flarebear's screen is that he seems to just not be resilient when his muscle memory is messed up a bit through a death. Oh, and that is not what you want to see either. Getting caught up with all his ghosts there. Not too common to die to the ghosts there. They usually the runners go way too fast, but they're showing how if you get stuck at the worst possible place, they can catch up to you and kill you. So blackpear with a 154, worse than the league average time, but certainly enough to extend a lead here. This is the opposite of the chapter 2 that flarebear was looking. And with really not great movement, unfortunately, in the awake section as well. And suddenly, blackpear has a very sizable lead going into chapter 3 of this race. And again, as I say every time, saying chapter 3 is often where the big changes can happen. Races can flip in an instant in this chapter, but so far, blackpear's performances in this game have left nothing to be desired. He's posted a personal best, or personal league best, I should say, already in the race right before this, in this chapter, with a 426. And Flare having a tough deaths to start off. Not too costly time-wise, but not, what you would want to see from him if he really wants to make up time in this chapter. Meanwhile, blackpear is blazing through, and it doesn't really look like he's going to let up. While he's not playing perfectly by any stretch, he's playing very well. I was looking for another adjective other than very well. It didn't come to me in time, so I went with very well. That's kind of the example of the differences in mistakes that they've been making in the race. blackpear missing the button there, having to go only cost him about a second. And that's been the majority of the mistakes that he's been making. Small. And they're not too infrequent. Like, he hasn't been playing perfectly. But when he does make a mistake, they just tend to not be big time loss. Whereas Flare seems to just have a penchant for deaths in the perfectly wrong spot. I should really give Flare credit though. His movement when he's on is beautiful, is really up there with the best of them. And that's kind of, he's really playing very aggressive. And you can argue that it's not in this instance, of course, but that's also what allows him to have such great potential for improvement. I mean, it's very apparent watching him play how much skill he has and how much potential he has, as I've just said, to compete in this league and really pull out some great performances. the best is yet to come for flarebear, and I'm really excited to see what he can do going forward. And that's not to say that this race is yet. If he can really cut down on mistakes been plaguing him today. And oh, I missed it, so I'm assuming that blackpear got first try demo dash again. That would be 3 for 3 from him. Very good job. The total average success rate on demo dash across all matches is 45%. So 3 for 3 is impressive for any runner. Oh, ooh, I thought Flare was gonna die there. This must have barely missed the dust bunny growth. First try for flarebear. They've been getting better and better, and soon that checkpoint will creep into more and more runners' repertoire. I know a lot of people already go for it in PB attempts, of course, but with their different strategies for races, it's going to be interesting to see who goes for these more risky, high risk, relatively low reward strategies like checkpoint. So not quite as clean of a resort from blackpear as we saw in the last race, but really Flare not taking advantage of that. Although it's still a pretty good resort time. Looks like he'll certainly finish sub 5 minutes unless he has a couple costly deaths here. As we get started on chapter 4. Yeah, it looked like a 446 from Flare. Not bad at all. 3 deaths, same as blackpear. Deaths are a fun statistic to track because the game shows it to you so obviously, but in reality, there are a lot of things to look at first before you would look at the number of deaths in terms of where to improve a run and where a run went wrong. Often a mistake can be very costly and not result in a death, and the death can only cost 1-2 seconds. So it's really not the most important statistic to look for, despite what you might think like naturally that it would be one of the most. For anyone who has some good knowledge of stats out there, the correlation or the R-squared value of the when comparing deaths and final chapter times is 0.7, I believe it was most recently. So obviously there's a correlation and a fairly strong one, but there's still a lot of variation in time that cannot be explained. And that mostly goes to the most important part of running Celeste, which is the movement. So much time can be made up with simple movement. Oh, Flare got so close to getting that screen transition, fell down and had to retry the room. I'm sure there's at least 2 of you watching who was interested in that R-squared statistic there. For those 2 of you though, I think, isn't that pretty cool? Just knowing that look at how much deaths really matter in the final time. But yeah, movement is the main thing, and that's true of a lot of speed games. How the top runners can just kind of sneak ahead of their competitors in a race. You don't even notice really what they're doing better. Just these tiny little frame-saving optimizations they know how to do perfectly. A runner that's less experienced doesn't know how to do. Now, I wouldn't say that that's the case here. It seems to me that blackpear's and flarebear's movement is mostly on par. I've noticed a couple of places where blackpear does a more strat in a room than Flare, but certainly when it comes to the quickness and the level of their movement, they are really matched. What it's mostly come down to is just consistency and avoidance of mistakes. And by mistakes, I mean big mistakes. He has been more consistent in the moments in which time saved or time loss are most likely than flarebear has by a wide margin. So Flare losing 6 seconds over the course of that chapter 4. Chapter 4 hasn't been a big issue for either runner, nor have they performed exceptionally on it. Alright, that is a yeet from blackpear. If I was FC, I could give that yeet, but I just can't quite match his energy. His commentary style is so I'm searching for a word here. What I'm saying is he's a great commentator, and he can say yeet like none other. And we'll see Flare getting an attempt at the trick here. This is something that's been in the run for a long time. I think the runners have had a chance to work on it for quite a long time, but we're still at a fairly low overall success rate. In yeet, overall, it's only at 29 for the league average success rate for the trick. And I suspect that's because it doesn't save that much time. Oh! You hate to see it, folks. That's a missed bubs drop from blackpear. That's going to cost him at least 10 seconds. Hopefully he doesn't get in his head too much. Often you'll see runners miss it again and again if they miss it once. And so that's 20 seconds lost. Right there from blackpear. Just from missing this nearly frame trick, and now a third time. Here we go. Here is Flare's opportunity to really get back in it. This is what really he's been waiting for. Okay, blackpear does get a 4th try. So Flare will not be able to take the lead with this, but he will catch up by quite a bit if he nails this first try. Now we are setting up for quite the curse here. Ah, nice. I did the anti-jinx. Flarebear getting it first try, and suddenly he's right there. He's only within rooms of blackpear now. That is an interesting development for sure. Neither runner had missed bubs drop once up till then, but then blackpear goes and misses it 3 times in a row. And neither runner having a fantastic 5B section so far, other than the bubs drop, which Flarebear nailed, but blackpear obviously didn't. And one thing to mention is that Flare's game time looks like 2 to 3 seconds faster or ahead of blackpear's, so any lead that blackpear has is actually 2 seconds greater than it immediately appears on screen. However, they're both in the same section of the same chapter at the same time. That's something we haven't really been seeing. Oh, but that's not gonna do it from Flare. Again, a costly mistake in the long room. As they enter the officially titled Mixmaster Thea room, getting his little comments in, which are really funny. This is actually it's never been no one's quite answered. Oh, and that's just really, that's what's been happening. That's so representative of Flair's struggle, this matchup. These deaths at the worst possible times. By dying at the end of both of those two last long rooms, he kind of tossed away the advantage that he got from all the missed bubs drops from blackpear. And unfortunately, this room is impossible, so that'll kill his run right there. Oh, okay. He made it through. I hope no one watched the match where I made that exact same joke before. Have to think of a new variant on that. Flair twice dropping Theo into the chasm, which counts as a death as well. Finishing up with, looks like above a 3-minute 5B. That's not what you want to see, especially with a first try bubs drop. So for a moment there, Flair was right back in it with a really good potential to take the lead, but unfortunately, those same kinds of mistakes that have been plaguing him all day snuck back in. Getting leg skip first try though. Flair has shown tremendous consistency at some of the most difficult tricks in the game, but has not managed to keep that consistency for some of the game that you would think of as being big problem. Pardon my armchair analysis, as I'm not really a runner, so I can't speak for sure as to what's going on. But I wonder if what the difference here might be just practice styles. That would be my guess. Oh, getting crushed. In between the Kevin block. Both of them in the bumper feather section. I will refuse if anyone tells me the name of the true name of this section. I just won't hear it. It's the bumper feather room, in my opinion. Alright, blackpear making it through these nice developer short. They're kind of trickier than they look, to be honest. It's not uncommon to see runners try and do them a little bit too fast, go right into the spikes. Alright, blackpear gearing up for battle and boost. Getting it, of course, keeping that momentum perfect. Battle and boost is another thing that we're tracking. It's runners have been very consistent at it. 85% of the time they keep their momentum through that cutscene, which is very hard to do. Oh, Flair, as I've said, okay, doesn't take a death there in that shortcut section, but does have some run-ins with the bumpers that he wasn't quite hoping for. While he gets ready for his battle and boost. This blackpear makes... Oh! That's kind of an example of how the laser... It's not quite as scary as it appears. The hitbox is actually pretty small. So often you think, oh, he's definitely going to get hit by it that time, but... Both runners having the oh, and it looks like we have commentator with me. Welcome, Troy. Not sure if you're talking yet, but
I am here.
Cool. Here for the last 10 minutes or so, but great to have you. Meanwhile, blackpear getting into the of the battle and fight, as flarebear takes an unfortunate death at, again, the end of a fairly long room. I don't know, have you been able to watch any of the match up until this point, Troy?
I have unfortunately not been able to. I actually just got home from work about 5 minutes ago. I listened in a bit. Yeah, I listened in a bit, heard you, and I felt like I needed to help out. I mean, like, no offense to you, but like, you're getting there definitely.
Yeah, no, it's been.
I mean, it's always better with two people anyway. It's always better with two people anyway. Here we got blackpear on the last screen of the Hollows. Oh, not Hollows. The last screen of Chapter 6 in general.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's definitely as much as I was gonna say it's exhausting to commentate for 2 hours. I'm sure it's a lot more exhausting to actually do the runs for 2 hours. So I shouldn't.
Yeah, that is very true, and it's definitely we're in that game 3. I'm not sure how they were playing the first 2, but I definitely have seen a lot of the cases where game 3 certainly starts to be the one where fatigue starts to set in. And it becomes like players begin to play a lot messier than they were in the first 2 games.
Yeah, well, I would say on flarebear's side, he's looking better. His first race was very rough. I think it was a 34 flat. So not what he was looking for there, but he got the 8 in the second race. So improved significantly, but looks like he hasn't quite been able to keep that momentum. And oh man, Flare, that's just what he's been doing. He keeps dying at the end of long room.
Oh, we had someone get a 34?
Yeah, Flare got a 34 in the first race. So it really hasn't been...
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is actually the first 34 we've got.
Yeah, I mean, we've had high 33s, like an exceptionally bad time compared to what we've seen, but oh, Flare...
Yeah, they've definitely have gotten closer before. It's just like they've gotten close to 34. It's just that's first one.
Yeah. So
it's a shame to be the first on that, but you know it happens. Oh, blackpear having a bit of trouble here. Able to recover very well there. Very good use of neutral jumps and of neutral wall jumps, but unfortunately not able to get enough speed with this that trick there. That isn't the only way to get up there. That's just the fastest way. But the problem is if you mess it up, you pretty much can't get up there at all.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Flare finishing off pretty tough reflection there. Yeah, 8 death reflection. Not what he wanted. It's looking like this race 3 from Flare is first race, that second. Meanwhile, to update you, Troy, on blackpear's been doing, he's playing very consistent. Got, I believe, a 2944, something in the 2940x range in his first race, which is obviously like a great performance from him.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. blackpear is just coming off of getting sub 30s, so he definitely has that ability in him now, and it's something that is recently been developed. Like it's certainly like something he's gonna keep doing. It's like once you get that, it kind of, you know, it's a mental block. A lot of milestones like that can be a mental block in speedrunning, and sub 30 certainly is one of them. I know it takes people forever. The one for me actually was recently. The one I most recently got was sub 100 deaths, and once I got that, first I got plus 50 time with 96 deaths, and then once, because I had 96, the next run dropped down to the 64, I think.
Wow.
So like the fact, like, it really is a mental barrier for you. Like, even if you don't realize it, it really can make such a difference just finally doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Another example of that is how Tago had potential to get the record in Star for so long, and then he finally gets it after all this grinding, and then gets another record the next day. Shows how much speedrunning is very much dependent on mental state, more even than it would seem initially, I think.
Yeah, very true. We do have both players now going through the summit. Blackpear is towards the middle of 2,000 meters, and flarebear is in the middle of 1,000. But yeah, thanks to that, I got a sub 50. I'm gonna look 46 minutes. I demolished sub 50. It was like,
yeah,
it was like I went from like 51 something to just 46, and I was like, what happened? So yeah, it really is like something that just once you get like that mental barrier out of there, it can really make a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's looking like flarebear is having a pretty good to this.
It can also it can also be a day-to-day thing. Like I certainly think so. Like if you don't think you're playing well, it can definitely keep happening that whole day. Like just mentally, like, you know, it can just throw you off for the whole day.
Yeah, for sure. Just like how in any others, people have bad days, they have good days. Blackpear has had a good day. He's pulled out some great times, and flarebear just not his day. He'll be back with a vengeance, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. All these players are definitely very good. All are very capable of bouncing back.
For sure. Something to watch here. I've been trying to commentators door skip as much as I possibly can, but neither runner has missed it so far. See, I've been talking about how door skip is an example of you never know trick when it's first discovered or what strategy when it's first being used can become very consistent.
Well, it's definitely part of the factor is definitely the discovery of Demo Dash for that one, because allowing you to shrink your vertical hitbox like that allows it to just become more consistent because you have more breathing room. So like when it was first discovered, people didn't know that, so your hitbox was 9 pixels always, but now we can shrink it to 4. So like a lot of people will demo dash during that because of it.
Nice. I actually hadn't considered that. That's a great point. I think still though, even before demo dash, people were getting crazy consistent, which is not something that people thought would happen when it was first being used.
Right. At first I thought like, yeah, when I first saw it, I definitely was like, oh, this is not that like simple of a trick, but it actually is like one that definitely has rhythm to it. So it's definitely like something you can absolutely get used to. Like it's not any sort of like it really is a rhythm, and you know, humans are rhythm is hardwired into us. It's used in a lot of speedrunning strats all over the place, and it's used definitely in different places here as well.
Yeah, I should say though that Blackpear, it seems like he's had a very good miss Bubs drop 3 times in this run, which is why his finishing time is going to be a good deal worse than his first 2 races, but still, of course, Bubs drop is probably the most punishing trick to miss in the game, so can't fault him too much for that.
Yeah, it's very true. I definitely was having a bit of a mini debate within the Celeste Discord about which is the hardest trick, and I was arguing that like there's a possibility that that Yeet is up there. People definitely keep saying like, no, Bubs drop is more difficult, because and it's the only reason why Yeet is not landed as much is because no one practices it much. Oh, and here we got flarebear messing up door skip so much.
There was the curse. It came through. I'm sorry, Flare, that it
Unfortunately.
had to be you.
Unfortunately there, but yeah, definitely. But Yeet definitely has a good case. Like I don't understand why people think like, oh, Bub's drop is one input. It is it is jumping on the right frame, whereas Yeet is a hyper dash on a dash block into the and that hyper dash has to be the absolute shortest hyper dash that you can do. Like there are different heights for like depending on how long you hold the jump button, and you have to do basically the lightest tap of a hyper dash to properly get landing on the next platform to get your dash back, because there's no way you're getting it back from the hyper dash. There's not enough room unless you like try to do a delayed reverse hyper dash, like extended reverse, and that's even harder because it's so small and it's a moving platform, so it gets smaller. But anyway, sorry, blackpear420 here, finishing out 30-32. But I could go in for a while on how I honestly think Yeet has to be harder.
Yeah,
I don't
I
understand people.
Well, myself, I have never. I'm attempts and Bub's drop.
I
So
have
I can't really
never
say.
landed a Yeet. I mean, I'm still like not like an amazing player at this game, but like I've never landed one.
So Blackpear with actually a very good summit. He was over 9 minutes in his first two races and got an 8:45 in that summit. So an improvement there. If it weren't for the Bub's drop misses, that would have been another sub 20 probably from, or sub 30, not sub 20, sub 30 from Blackpear.
Yeah, that's not the best 5B time there. Oh, actually, I can't even see the 5B time. Hold on, where is it? Where is it? 4:33. I mean that's including that's everything. That's including the cutscenes and like any sort of thing that goes on. So Bub's drop definitely is factored into there. So yeah, that's not it's not great. It's okay, but I definitely think that Blackpear knows he can do better.
That's
Also,
it. I think he's performed very well and very consistent.
yeah, all those other chapters definitely look really good. Yeah, that also, by the way, that also includes chapter 1, chapter 5A. Sorry, and that's 5A and 5B combined on that. So it's kind of hard to say exactly how well it is, but I don't know.
Right. But certainly, I mean, Blackpear really played it. He has shown great improvement these last couple performances. I mean, he excluding this game that he just did, his average time is a 30:54, which he beat in all three of his races today. So kudos to Blackpear for that performance.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot better lately.
Yep. And Claire is in the final room, or the final screen of the game called Celeste.
Yep, on that final flag as well. He is on that number 1. This is getting very close to even a 10-minute, which is that must hurt, honestly. To the point where he basically doesn't finish. Yeah, he just deletes it. Okay, I'm gonna have a fun time figuring out that. Oh, thank you for showing me your splits. That's helpful. Because I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, he just was not happy with that run.
Or well, we got Flair in the call. How are you feeling?
Annoyed.
Yeah, I definitely saw that, especially at the end there. Did it actually log it as finished?
Yeah, returning to map logs, it is finished. That was just me finding a way to be petty at the end and get out of the run as fast as possible.
Yeah, getting up to a 10-minute summit, like close to a 10-minute summit, must feel terrible. Yeah,
Yeah,
he just
no,
was
like
not happy your level. I'm still at like 13-minute summits, but
Well, we got Flare in the call. How are you feeling?
sorry, keep going.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely saw that, especially at the end
There's
there.
not much to say. Like
Um,
I just had really bad performance. Just have to do more no resets next time, I guess.
yeah, everyone absolutely has days like these. It's not anything to dwell on. Um, I've definitely seen great performances from you, so it's definitely I would not count you out of moving up in the league. Despite the
Yeah.
record that you have right now, you still definitely have a chance.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about Flare is, it seemed like there were a lot of deaths that happened at the end of long rooms. Is that something you noticed yourself?
Yeah, but I mean like not like any more common than it generally is. The long screen deaths are the ones that I had are just the really annoying rooms. Except for that one, I forgot which run it was. I was on a good 5B and then I got to the mirror and I like wasn't in the range of the cutscene apparently, so I just retried and I had to do like a whole 20-second screen over again. That was pretty epic. Uh yeah,
Well,
sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was saying, still GG for finishing out those runs. Really showed a lot of like beautiful movement though in between there. I saw some times where it was like you were flying through, and I think we're going to go on to the next races. Any last few?
Uh let me get a shout out. I'm trying to think of a good shout out. Speedrun a Hat in Time, that's my usual one. Shout outs to I'm gonna pick a random shout outs to M Sushi. There's my shout out.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, follow runners, follow us if you want. I was barely here, so I probably don't deserve it this game, but follow all of us.
Oh, and shout outs to blackpear, obviously.
Yeah, both of you playing very well. I mean, Flarebear, of course, off days happen, but you'll definitely get back into it. I know you can.
It's a rough time for all you Flarebear fans out there. We're not even on the board yet.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, as Basushi's older brother, have a good day. So yeah, we have coming up next at 6 p.m. That's in roughly an hour. We got SM64's 70-star league. I believe that's Division 1. Yep, that is Division 1 between Paracuja and Liam King, so you can stick around for that.
Yep, and the stream will be restarting before that, but don't worry,
right, yeah.
it will
'Cause it's
come
1 hour.
right back. So no problem. And I guess we're signing off. See you next time
GG.
and later today.